The perfect dictatorship is not Cuba, but Mexico.
We are seeing the weaponization of the judiciary in a very frightening extent to things that the European Union 10 years ago used to criticize in other countries.
Democracy is being steered using the judiciary system. Everything works well if the justice system applies the law. If it starts to do politics, then the whole texture, the whole democratic texture, the fabric is undermined. And that is what was happening in Poland. In the Polish political and constitutional system, the Constitutional Tribunal plays a crucial role as it checks whether the laws passed by the parliament are constitutional, if they conform with the constitution. So it plays a very important controlling role. Tusk's administration accused the Constitutional Tribunal of being politicized and is ignoring, simple as that, is ignoring the institution itself and its rulings. For example, the Constitutional Tribunal ruled that one of the parliamentary commissions dealing with the Pegasus scandal is unconstitutional. But the government and the parliament ignored the ruling, and the commission goes on functioning. It is one of the commissions that was established to perform a kind of show trial, to show that the PiS government was autocratic and acted outside the boundaries of the legal system. And it's just one of several examples where the government is ignoring a constitutional institution, and it may have far-reaching consequences, because when the next government comes, it might also say, okay, we'll take this legacy and we'll go on, we'll stretch it even further.
Is it fair to say that the Constitutional Tribunal is like very similar to the Supreme Court in the United States, the body charged with interpreting the Constitution and, well, checking laws, but also taking complaints from the citizenry about unconstitutional acts of the government?
Yes, we could say so. It's just that in Poland we've got two separate institutions, the Constitutional Tribunal and a Supreme Court, while in the United States the competences are sort of collected in one body, in one institution.
So the government actually just ignoring a ruling of the Constitutional Tribunal would be equivalent to the US government just to some extent just ignoring a Supreme Court ruling if that came down.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And why is that? Why is that not an outcry? I mean, this, first of all, how is it possible? I mean, I guess it's possible because the Constitutional Tribunal itself has no enforcement mechanism. But I suppose also on the EU level, people just don't care, because I do remember how loudly the PIS was criticized whenever they try to change the rules of the game of how judges are appointed, or change the number of judges and so on. And all of that, I mean, I haven't heard about this except from you.
We are starting our report with MCC by a motto, a phrase that was pronounced by the Peruvian Nobel Prize winner about the perfect dictatorship in Mexico. He said in the 90s that the perfect dictatorship is not Cuba, but Mexico. Let's remind perhaps our viewers that Mexico was ruled by one party for 71 years, from the 20s of the 20th century to the 2000. And it did so because it had a friendly international environment, and it used a terror in a targeted and limited way. It was not like a Soviet Union where you had millions, tens of millions of people executed or sent to Siberia. In Mexico, the elections took place. They were rigged, they were corrupt, but they were taking place regularly. and there were no large terror campaigns against the population. And of course, it's not that this is an accurate analogy to what is happening in Poland, but it captures the gist. Tusk's government uses the judiciary, for example, the National Prosecutor's Office, to target the political opponents. And if you use force in a limited way, there is no chance there is no big chance of huge public outcry because it doesn't affect many people. It affects certain individuals, a party, a political party maybe, but most of the population, most of Poles do not sort of feel it themselves. That's one thing. The other thing is the friendly international environment. The silence of the European Commission is very conspicuous. There was also a very telling moment in December 2023 when Tusk was taking over the public media using the police and the private security companies. A European commissioner tasked with the rule of law, surprise, surprise, came to Poland, and during common press conference with the American ambassador, they congratulated the Tusk government and sort of suggested that they see no problem with what was happening. So it was a clear sign of support for the actions undertaken by the new administration.
There's a pattern now, and the pattern in Europe goes through the judiciary. We now had in Romania the most popular candidate being made ineligible through the judiciary with no good reasons other than this person isn't fit for office because he doesn't support key policies that the judges say are key policies. It's a circular reasoning. We now have in France Marine Le Pen, which is also excluded from running for presidency. We have in Turkey, we've got the main opposition politician being arrested over dubious charges for corruption. Now in Poland, you've got the Constitutional Tribunal that's being ignored on the one hand, and the prosecutor's office that's being used in order to target political dissidents. I mean, we are seeing the weaponization of the judiciary in a very frightening extent to things that the European Union 10 years ago used to criticize in other countries, and it used to criticize the Kaczynskis in Poland for doing. And this is all gone. How do you explain that to yourself? What is it that that makes the difference between EU cracks down on somebody or EU lets weaponization of the judiciary just pass? What's the defining element?
The list you have you've mentioned is even longer. The situation in Austria, where the FPÖ chief is being accused of allegedly lying before the parliamentary commission. That in Italy, the emails were leaked. The emails between the judges who are asking themselves why is Giorgia Meloni is not persecuted yet. So yes, you're absolutely right. There is a pattern emerging in Europe where democracy is being steered using the judiciary system. And there are several explanations to this. Well, the main difference between PiS and the Kaczynski and Tusk in Poland in the foreign policy is that Tusk thinks that everything that European Commission and European Union does aligns with the Polish national interest. Kaczynski has his doubts. And that's the axis of conflict, because we're witnessing now a building of a superstate, of the European superstate. The European Commission and Germany and France are trying to transform the European Union into a superstate. It does so through competence creep and the economic governance. So everyone who opposes the building of the superstate is being attacked by the European Commission using all tools available, and those who accept the building of the superstate are the good ones. And just to remind our viewers who are perhaps who do not live in Europe or are not interested in the European politics, European Union is an international organization like the International Olympic Committee. European Union is a customs union and a free trade area, and the European Commission is an institution uh, which was created to facilitate the management of this free market. So if you think about it, about the origins of the European Union, a free trade area, and what it is becoming now, well, you have to ask the question whether this organization still serves the purpose.